Republicans are not smart, and that should not surprise us considering this is the party that wants to ban books. But it's not just that they hate academics, intelligence, expertise at large, really. They want to attack it. And we saw that with Donald Trump's attempt to illegally eliminate the Department of Education, but they're also waging a different war against PBS and NPR. And Jasmine Crockett made sure to point out how absurd that was, especially from the incompetent Republican Party, and a takedown of Marjorie Taylor Greene to her face in front of Congress that was absolutely humiliating, especially because she was alluding to a lack of reading ability and cognition from the Congresswoman. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into Crockett's hilarious embarrassment of Marjorie Taylor Greene, I want to start with some context from Chris Hayes right here.
PBS is popular. People like Mr. Rogers, and they like Big Bird, and they like Sesame Street. Okay, so that brings us to now, right? Donald Trump is, once again, the most recent Republican president to try and gut public broadcasting, this time specifically through an executive order. Now, public broadcasting is not going down without a fight. In a statement, they said, quote, "The Corporation for Public Broadcasting is not a federal executive agency subject to the president's authority. Congress directly authorized and funded CPB to be a private nonprofit corporation wholly independent of the federal government." And guess what? They're absolutely right. Trump cannot just defund PBS and NPR by signing something in a Sharpie, because that money is appropriated by Congress and the corporation is a separate independent entity. So you might be thinking, well, why doesn't Congress, which, remember, has Republican majorities in both houses, pass a bill to defund PBS? And here I'm pretty sure the answer is because they don't have the votes to do it. That is why Republicans have failed to defund PBS for half a century. It would be politically toxic to actually slash it legislatively. In fact, Trump's proposed budget, which is out today, which Republicans are already balking at, does include the elimination of the funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, as so many Republican budgets have before it. And yet, Trump turned around and signed this executive order last night anyway. And what does that say about the White House's confidence that it can pass the defunding through a Congress that it controls? And here we come to what might be the central story so far of this administration one way. It's a problem Republicans have had for a long time. You might call it the Sesame Street problem, okay? There are so many things Republicans want to destroy, defund, slash, and cut in the government that they can't because those things are popular.
What's next from Republicans? Are we going after puppies? Are we going after ice cream? I feel like if you're looking for cuts in the budget, maybe we could focus on all the money that Donald Trump spends on golf trips and all the money we spend flying Elon Musk around on Air Force One and Marine One for some reason. I don't really know what that's all about. The richest man in the world can't shell out for a little bit of his own private travel. No, he has to do it on our dime. Well, that is kind of how Elon operates, but not a shock there. But this attack always comes, in the lane of we're getting rid of this state-sponsored media. Really? State-sponsored media? Well, Jasmine Crockett called that out before she humiliated Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I want to see what she had to say.
About emergency management, and they don't care about free speech, all of which are harming American people. In fact, I'm gonna skip off real quick because they have tried to come for you, Ms. Mayor, and I just want to clarify, you did not work for NPR when those statements were made, did you?
That is correct, Madam
And to be clear, free speech is not about whatever it is that y'all want somebody to say. And the idea that you want to shut down everybody that is not Fox News is bullshit. We need to stop playing because that's what y'all are doing in here. You don't want to hear the opinions of anybody else. And the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting or establishing of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the
gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentlewoman's time has expired.
The only state-sponsored media is the Fox propaganda outlet. Let's be very clear about that. And now we don't just have the lunatics at Fox, we also have these MAGA influencers, these journalists coming to the White House to spew their propaganda in their press briefings with Carolyn Levitt. It's just an absolute joke. But not as much of a joke as Marjorie Taylor Greene. And Jasmine Crockett posted a little video putting together a couple of clips showing that Marjorie Taylor Greene herself maybe should stop attacking PBS because her comprehension's not that great. Maybe she could be served by a couple of hours of watching. Take a look at what Jasmine Crockett put together.
There are 1,524 and 481. This is over 1 million, 1.5. Mr. Ron Kendall is the executive chairman emeritus at the National.
Why is MTG supporting Musk and Doge and the slashing of Medicaid, Social Security offices, libraries, and more? This is outrageous from Sarah. Well, Sarah, unfortunately, you're being brainwashed by the news that you're watching.
This is coming from someone who clearly reads on a first grade level, so I don't know why she's trying to clown Sarah.
Oh my gosh. So Jasmine Crockett put that video together mocking Marjorie Taylor Greene's difficulty reading, her reading comprehension. I love that. I think that we need to get into the muck. We need to call these people out in whatever way. We just need to humiliate them because they're humiliating our country. And Republicans even know it. Of course, we all know Marjorie Taylor Greene is a joke, and some Republicans are happy to say that. But Jasmine Crockett was also recently talking about how unhappy the Republicans in Congress are, how much they're freaking out over Donald Trump's disastrous agenda. And we can check that out right here.
But we heard from several Republicans who said they didn't like it. Senator Roger Wicker said that the president's advisors were apparently not listening because the Pentagon spending. Senator Mitch McConnell said it was material neglect. Susan Collins called it late and expressed concern over those cuts as well. What do you think is going to happen here?
Listen, I have no idea. Unfortunately, I don't feel like we're living at a time in which these representatives, whether they're senators or House members, are listening to their constituents. If you listen to your constituents, then you will hear pain. And that pain is spread across the political spectrum. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, the cuts that you talked about, they are going to impact everyone. And it's interesting, as we are going through reconciliation, we had a reconciliation markup in oversight as well as judiciary, so I had a very long night on Wednesday. And to listen to them, the things that they were not willing to say that they were okay with cutting, or the things that they were willing to cut, right? It's absolutely insane. And I have to tell you that the House budget Democrats have made sure that we have every single district listed out with the amount of people that will be impacted by the Medicaid cuts, with the amount of people that will be impacted by the SNAP cuts. But you even went a lot deeper there. And here's the reality. You said that he wants there to be a portion of the budget that goes up to $1 trillion on the defense side. And when we look at defense, you know who can't pass a clean budget or a clean audit? It's defense. They have failed the very last 7 audits. So why would they continue to get raises, which they always do, yet we're going to hurt the most vulnerable amongst us?
Yeah, and they're saying that it's targeted. It's for certain programs at the Pentagon. It wouldn't just be to boost overall spending. But I still think it's a good question in terms of what that looks like. But do you think the president will get what he wants here from Republicans? I mean, what is your sense of watching your colleagues across the aisle?
It seems like they do whatever he wants them to do at all times, right? Like behind closed doors, they will talk about how these things are crazy. You can find plenty of Republicans that will tell you that these tariffs are a problem. They will tell you that, and they know that it's a problem. This is why they don't want to go out and listen to their constituents by having town halls. This is exactly why, if you tune in and watch any of these hearings, when it comes down to marking up these bills where these cuts are supposed to be, you know who won't even defend them? The Republicans. We sat in hours and hours and hours of in listening to amendments as we were going through the markups. And every time we started calling out specific Republicans and said, Congressman such and such, what do you think? And they literally were silent. It was almost like they were told, don't say anything because we can't win. We just have to vote down these common sense amendments and get through this because this is what we've been told to do.
Well, and on the Pentagon spending part of this is the wish list includes the Golden Dome, which is basically this new missile defense shield, new space missions to Mars and also to the moon. The question is who would benefit from that? And based on the person who has massive federal contracts for that right now is Elon Musk. I do wonder, though, given the backlash that some Republicans have seen at town halls and Democrats who are accused by some constituents of not doing enough to push back against Elon Musk spending bill here.
I mean, it's all about making sure that he and his friends are happy. That's it. So yeah, absolutely. I can see that, we've talked about this Gold Dome situation and Elon. I don't know that I'll see that in there. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't know. I think that they may say this is where we kind of draw the line. There was an increase even under President Biden for defense as well. And that came as a part of a negotiation to raise the debt ceiling the last time. They said, well, when we get to the budget, you've got to make sure that you do this increase. But here's the bigger issue. We can talk about the specifics of cuts and where there's going to be increases. The real issues are this, is that when you start to cut, regardless of if you think it's a handout or whatever you think it is, this impacts all of us. Even if you are not the person that say is on Medicaid, when you have to show up to that hospital, or when you have to go see your doctor, or when your children are having to go to school with other children that aren't getting their health care. Listen, we learned this in the pandemic, that you can't just say, oh, well, I have enough money so I can escape this. You can't. This is going to impact those of us that aren't the 1%ers.
Well, and obviously we're seeing disagreement among Republicans. Democrats also are not agreeing. No one seems to be able to strike the balance on where you're going, what's the best way to respond to President Trump. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked tonight who he believes is leading the Democratic Party, and I want you to listen to his answer.
Do you think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is the new leader? Could it be Vance AOC in 2028?
President AOC, the stuff of nightmares, Brett. Thank you. You've ruined my sleep for this evening.
Who is the leader of the Democratic Party?
I don't know. Honestly,
Do you think about it?
I think to the extent the Democrats have a leader, Donald J. Trump is the leader of the Democratic Party.
They're against him.
Because they're just against everything that he does.
Oh.
Is Trump leading the Democratic Party?
Under no circumstances. And I think that he absolutely, in fact, he had my name in his mouth here recently. No, listen, that is not true. But I do think that one of our problems right now is that everybody's like, who is our leader? And I keep trying to tell people that you are waiting on somebody to come and save you, but your savior is you. It is the people. The most, as we listen to the vice president speak, or Vice President Kamala Harris, let me just say that. As we listened to her speak on Wednesday, one of the things that she talked about being inspired by was the people. And that is what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to make sure that, listen, no matter how you associate politically, this is about us.
I said at the beginning of this video that Republicans just aren't smart. And while that's true, they are smart enough to realize that Donald Trump is screwing them, not just in Congress, but around the country. It is the reason that his approval rating is hitting historic lows and continues to drop. And we need to capitalize on that anger. We need to be reaching out to these people and bringing them into the tent as Bernie Sanders has, as AOC has, as Maxwell Frost, Chris Murphy, and Ro Khanna have with their trips to red districts, holding town halls. We need to capitalize on that. We're going to be doing so as much as we can on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can leave a like on this video. You can hit that subscribe button, and you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.